four-way light switch diagram is accurate. It illustrates how a four-way switch setup can manage a single light from three distinct spots. Firstly, consider the components. The configuration consists of two three-way switches and two four-way switches. Secondly, think about the cables. One cable links the two three-way switches. Another cable, which incorporates a neutral wire, connects the two four-way switches. The third cable connects the two four-way switches to the light fixture. The light fixture is represented by a single black wire in the diagram. Importantly, the diagram omits the power source, the neutral wires, and the ground wires for simplicity. The power source is presumed to originate from a junction box. The neutral wires aren't incorporated because they are not directly part of the switching circuit. Similarly, ground wires are not shown since they do not affect the switching operation itself. To elaborate on the wiring, let's clarify the role of each switch. The two three-way switches are located at the beginning and the end of the circuit, controlling the flow of electricity to the four-way switches in between. The four-way switches, when toggled, reverse the connections between the wires, allowing the light to be turned on or off from any of the three locations. The cables connecting these switches contain multiple wires, typically including hot wires, traveler wires, and the neutral wire in some cases. The hot wire brings power from the source, the traveler wires carry the signal between the switches, and the neutral wire provides a return path for the current. When wiring these switches, it's crucial to follow electrical codes and safety guidelines. Always turn off the power at the breaker before working on any electrical circuits. Use appropriately sized wires and connectors for the application. Ensure that all connections are secure and properly insulated to prevent shorts and electrical hazards. A common mistake is misidentifying the wires and connecting them incorrectly, which can cause the circuit to malfunction or create a safety risk. Double-check the wiring diagram and use a multimeter to verify the continuity and voltage of each wire before energizing the circuit. Also, consider the placement of the switches. They should be located in convenient and accessible locations such as near doorways or hallways. The wiring should be concealed within walls and ceilings, using appropriate conduit or cable management systems. To summarize, the four-way light switch diagram accurately depicts the switch arrangement and cable connections required to control a light fixture from three different locations. While it omits details such as the power source, neutral wires, and ground wires for simplicity, it provides a clear representation of the switching circuit itself. When wiring these switches, always prioritize safety and follow established electrical codes and guidelines. The power source is not shown as it's assumed to come from a junction box. Neutral wires aren't visible because they are not part of the switching mechanism itself. Ground wires, similarly, are omitted since the focus is on the switching logic. This diagram serves as a valuable tool for anyone looking to understand or implement a four-way light switch configuration. It is vital to remember that safety should always be the utmost concern when working with electricity. Before starting any electrical work, it's recommended to turn off the power at the circuit breaker. Next, ensure that the work area is dry and clear of any obstructions. Also wear appropriate safety gear such as insulated gloves and eye protection. When connecting wires, use wire connectors that are rated for the wire size and voltage. Make sure to tighten the connectors securely to prevent loose connections, which can cause overheating or arcing. Once the wiring is complete, double-check all connections and ensure that all wires are properly insulated. Use electrical tape or heat shrink tubing to cover any exposed wires or terminals. Finally, before turning the power back on, inspect the entire circuit for any potential hazards, such as damaged wires or loose connections. If everything looks safe, turn the power back on at the circuit breaker and test the circuit to make sure it is working correctly. If there are any problems, such as the light not turning on or off, turn the power back off and recheck the wiring. It may be helpful to consult with a qualified electrician if there are any doubts about the wiring or the safety of the circuit. By following these safety precautions, it is possible to safely and effectively wire a four-way light switch. The diagram is a great resource for anyone who wants to learn more about electrical wiring. This setup allows for convenient control of a light from multiple locations, which can be particularly useful in long hallways or staircases. Remember to adhere to all local electrical codes and regulations when performing any electrical work. If unsure, consult a licensed electrician. It's important to understand the purpose of each wire in the circuit. The hot wire carries the electrical current from the power source to the switches. The neutral wire provides a return path for the current back to the power source. The ground wire provides a path for fault current to flow back to the power source, which can help to prevent electrical shock. When wiring the switches, it's important to connect the wires to the correct terminals. The terminals are typically labeled with letters or numbers, such as COM, LON, and L2. The common terminal is connected to the hot wire from the power source. The LON and L2 terminals are connected to the traveler wires that run between the switches. It is very important to remember that working with electricity can be dangerous. Always take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. To further elaborate on the types of switches, a three-way switch has 3 terminals and can be used to control a light from 2 locations. A 4-way switch has 4 terminals and is used in conjunction with 2 3-way switches to control a light from 3 or more locations. The 3-way switches are always located at the beginning and end of the circuit, while the 4-way switches are located in between. When the 4-way switches are toggled, they reverse the connections between the traveler wires, which allows the light to be turned on or off from any of the 3 locations. In addition to the switches and wires, there are also other components that may be needed for a 4-way light switch circuit, such as wire connectors, electrical boxes, and cover plates. Wire connectors are used to connect the wires together. Electrical boxes are used to house the switches and wiring. Cover plates are used to cover the electrical boxes and provide a finished look. When installing these components, it's important to follow all applicable electrical codes and regulations. This will ensure that the installation is safe and compliant with local standards. Furthermore, it's also important to consider the aesthetics of the installation. The switches and cover plates should be chosen to match the decor of the room. The wiring should be neatly organized and concealed within the walls and ceilings. A well-designed and installed 4-way light switch circuit can add convenience and functionality to any home or building. It's essential to have a clear understanding of the principles involved. A 4-way switching circuit allows control of a lighting fixture from 3 or more locations. This involves using 2 3-way switches at the 2 ends of the circuit and 1 or more 4-way switches in between. Let's understand the function and wiring of each component. A 3-way switch has 3 terminals common, Traveler 1 and Traveler 2. It can connect the common terminal to either Traveler 1 or Traveler 2, effectively changing the path of the current. A 4-way switch has 4 terminals, 2 inputs and 2 outputs. It can connect input 1 to output 1 and input 2 to output 2, or it can cross the connections and connect input 1 to output 2 and input 2 to output 1. This cross connection is what allows the light to be controlled from multiple locations. The wiring of a 4-way switching circuit involves connecting the common terminal of the first 3-way switch to the power source. The Traveler 1 and Traveler 2 terminals of the first 3-way switch are connected to the 2 input terminals of the first 4-way switch. If there are multiple 4-way switches, they are connected in series, with the output terminals of one 4-way switch connected to the input terminals of the next 4-way switch. The output terminals of the last 4-way switch are connected to the Traveler 1 and Traveler 2 terminals of the second 3-way switch. Finally, the common terminal of the second 3-way switch is connected to the light fixture. When any of the switches is flipped, it changes the path of the current and either turns the light on or off. The key to understanding how a 4-way switching circuit works is to realize that each switch is either connecting the wires straight through or crossing them. By flipping the switches in different combinations, it is possible to control the light from any of the 3 or more locations. When working with electrical circuits, it is always important to follow safety precautions. Be sure to turn off the power at the circuit breaker before working on any wiring. Use insulated tools and wear safety glasses. If you are not comfortable working with electrical circuits, it is best to hire a qualified electrician. A common issue when installing a four-way switching circuit is miswiring the switches. This can cause the circuit to not work properly or even create a safety hazard. Be sure to carefully follow the wiring diagram and double-check all connections before turning the power back on. Another issue that can arise is a faulty switch. If a switch is not working properly, it can cause the circuit to not work correctly. Be sure to test all switches before installing them to ensure that they are functioning properly. In addition to the basic wiring of a four-way switching circuit, there are also some advanced features that can be added. For example, it is possible to add a dimmer switch to the circuit to control the brightness of the light. It is also possible to add a motion sensor to the circuit to automatically turn the light on when someone enters the room. These advanced features can add convenience and energy savings to the circuit. However, they also require additional wiring and components. Be sure to consult with a qualified electrician before adding any advanced features to a four-way switching circuit. In summary, a four-way switching circuit is a versatile and convenient way to control a light from multiple locations. By understanding the function and wiring of each component, it is possible to install and maintain a four-way switching circuit safely and effectively. Remember to always follow safety precautions and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns.